The ITL segment sampler is used to safely obtain a measured fluid sample from sealed tubing segments. Segment sampler provides a safe, efficient alternative to other commonly used methods to collect sample from a tubing segment, such as cut and drip or squeeze, or use of a sharp needle. These methods do not include an integrated safety mechanism. Segment sampler contains internal needles to pierce the ends of the tubing segment. Once both ends of the tubing have been pierced, the fluid in the segment can be drawn into an attached syringe. Applications for segment sampler include obtaining a measured sample for point-of-release testing, sampling cord blood and other cellular therapy products, sampling units of blood implicated in transfusion reaction workups, or sampling components for QC tests, research, and other uses where a sample needs to be obtained from a sealed tubing segment. Let's review the procedure for using segment sampler. First, gather materials to carry out this procedure, including an appropriate size syringe based on the amount of sample volume to be obtained, a segment sampler, and a tubing segment to be tested. To begin the procedure, open the segment sampler and syringe packages. Avoid touching segment sampler openings, syringe port, and syringe tip. Attach the syringe to the segment sampler syringe port. Now, gently break the syringe seal by gently pulling and pushing the plunger back and forth. Breaking the syringe seal can also be done before attaching the syringe to the segment sampler. Next, hold the assembled segment sampler and syringe in one hand. While observing the segment sampler opening located on the same side as the attached syringe, hold the tubing segment with the other hand. Now, insert end of tubing segment straight down into the segment sampler so that the segment is pierced by the internal needle. To avoid potential sample exposure, do not squeeze the segment during this step. It may be helpful to hold the segment sampler horizontally to observe the piercing of the segment end. Insert the other end of the segment into the other segment sampler opening. Make sure to guide the segment end straight down and into the segment sampler opening. This helps to ensure that the tubing segment is pierced by the internal needle. You may find it helpful to hold the segment sampler horizontally to observe the piercing of the segment end. Once you have visually confirmed that both ends of the segment were pierced successfully, gently pull the syringe plunger to withdraw fluid samples from the segment into the syringe. Withdraw a volume just over the sample volume required for the procedure or test. A bubble or bubbles may appear in the syringe. To remove bubbles, hold the segment sampler and attached syringe in a vertical position. Tap the syringe so that the bubbles move to the top of the fluid column in the syringe. Once the bubbles are at the top of the syringe, gently replunge the fluid back into the segment, just enough to remove the bubbles from the syringe back into the segment. To reduce potential for sample exposure, gently replunge the syringe contents into the segment. Do not forcefully replunge. Continue to plunge the syringe until the required amount of sample is left in the syringe. Now, detach the syringe from the segment sampler and discard segment sampler per your facility procedure. Do not remove the segment from segment sampler. Transfer the sample from the syringe into a designated test tube or other device as per test instructions. Discard syringe per your facility procedure. The ITL segment sampler is an easy-to-use device for safely obtaining a measured sample from a sealed tubing segment.